She's a country girl in a city world.
So today, this afternoon, we're going over to Castlemaine to pick up Brian, who has put his car in for some repair work, and the car's not going to be ready by today, so go over today, pick him up, bring him home, and then tomorrow at some stage we'll have to go back again to pick his car up. But this involves the back road going through Sutton Grange. We're going to briefly look at the hall where the portrait of Billy Smith lives. We'll be crossing Mount Alexander, quite a imposing mountain. It seems to be named after Alexander the Great because the Campaspe River, which runs through this area, also has a association with Alexander. I believe Campaspe was Alexander's concubine, but might just be a rumour. Pretty much farm land through here, mostly again sheep. We bought our sheep from a farmer, or a big property owner called the Barties. They've been here a long time, and they own a lot of sheep country around here. So we bought, I think we bought 6 ewes, and then we needed a ram, so we got Rambo, we called him, delivered in the back of a truck. And the girls, they thronged around him. Once we unloaded him, the girls who'd been there a couple of months by that stage, absolutely fascinated with Rambo. It's like Davy Jones of the Monkees that arrived at a concert hall in the 60s. Oh, now that river there, that's not the Campaspe. The name will come to me, but along this river, we'll have a quick look. You can't really see because of the reeds, but on the other side of the river was a settlement of houses and shops, and we're talking quite a long time ago, probably the time of the Boer War. There was a settlement along that river. Now, about 7 or 8 years ago, I mean, it is overgrown now, but in the height of summer, we've had a lot of rain lately, so it's all overgrown, but in the height of summer, there was hardly any overgrowth. So Brian and I walked along that riverbank on the other side looking for signs of life. And when we came out, or well, I found it, we were walking along and I stopped myself because there was a hole in front of me, like an old cellar maybe of a shop or a house. And in that hole, as I recall, it was a while ago, it was perfectly square. There was a sheep in there, and the sheep was sort of looking at me, and I said, oh right. So Brian and I had to get on our bellies. I don't think it was big enough for me to get in there with him, but we had to haul him up. If we hadn't found him, because no one goes down there, he would have starved or died of thirst for sure. We managed to haul him up. We got him on his feet. He was a bit weak. He shook himself and trotted off up the road to where he lived, I guess. So that was lucky for the sheep, eh? Alright, so we've got one thing I'll show you on the way to Castlemaine. There's lots to see, but there's one thing that is on my mind at the moment. I can show you guys. As you can see how brown it is out here. Even though we've had that rain, it doesn't really get green until winter. So, alright, I'll talk to you soon. So I just thought I'll show you as we approach Sutton Grange, which really is nothing at all apart from their hall. There is an old graveyard. I've never been there. Maybe that's something we could look into, but there is also a creek that runs through Sutton Grange where there was life. There were buildings and businesses along this creek. In fact, you can see the old road where it used to run. Once again, it's horribly overgrown, but that track down there is, and you can, I'm thinking, but there's a bridge collapsed over the creek there. This camera doesn't have a zoom on it, but you would see some beams laying there in the creek where the old road with the wooden bridge ran, and along that creek were some businesses. But this is where Billy lives, or his memory. But we brought him back to life. We went to Vilman's Roost, where old Billy lost his life. It's now coal mining. Here he is in this hall here. It's very, very rarely open. There is also a church down there where Brian goes sometimes, or used to, Uniting Church. So yeah, this is the Sutton Grange Community Hall, and I am thinking of putting on a show here with the story of Billy and the Boer War and why those guys were there and where Billy is interred, but we'll see about that. But it's a great hall in there. It needs to be used, so I'm thinking, yeah, give the locals something, a light and sound spectacular. Oops. There is some old, we'll see it as well, overgrown tennis courts. Just over there, overgrown tennis courts. There is also the old CFA, the Country Fire Authority. In fact, there's a little pavilion there for them to watch the tennis in the days of yore. That's the new CFA. We will see the old one, I think, as we're coming up. So I love the name Sutton Grange, and for you pop fans, music trivia, Neil Diamond was booked to play a winery in Sutton Grange a number of years ago, and he cancelled because it was the first symptoms he had. I don't know if it was Parkinson's or something that he's got, but he decided to stop touring because of his health. So there you go. This little district almost hosted Neil Diamond once. Alright, so we're heading, we're directly facing Mount Alexander. You can see height there, some towers up there, but we're going to be crossing the end of the mountain range. And I'll show you something of interest once we get over the mountain. Okay, so we've crossed Mount Alexander. We're on the other side, and we're coming down to the end of this road. This road goes for about 30 kilometres, and we're coming to the little, it's not a town, it's not a village, what is it? It's a place called Faraday. Once again, maybe once upon a time it had something, because it's got a name. But there was for a brief few days, it was on the front news of all the newspapers in Victoria for a very odd reason, and I'll show you why. And I think it was for sale. Let's have a look. Okay, it's up here. I'm looking for the little school at Faraday. As I said, it was for sale recently. The for sale sign's still up. Maybe it didn't sell. There's a rabbit. So here's the little school here. We'll pull in. The gate's open. I'm not sure if we'd be allowed in or not. Maybe. Oh, someone's coming. But This is a little primary school made of the sandstone. You can see there, and it was either the 70s or the 80s when this little school became, as I said, front page news in the Victorian and Australian papers. So on this day, and I'll get the details for you, the kids were sitting in here in the afternoon. Probably the day was getting long. They might have had their little heads on their hands, having a little nap when and the teacher was with them. Small country school, you know, as you know, around here it'd be tiny. There's probably a dozen kids there. When these two escapees from Pentridge prison came in and took all the kids and the teacher hostage. Now, it dragged on for, I don't know, a day or more maybe. They demanded a ransom from the Victorian State Premier. You can sort of see the entrance to the school there. So, sorry. I thought it was for sale. I thought it was for sale, the school. Well, why can't I look at it?
Because I live here, it's my place of residence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
you're
apologise.
right. Ring the agent, he'll let you
Oh, okay.
have a look, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, you're right.
Okay. Beautiful place you've got. Thank you.
But it's yours.
Okay. There you go. So, as I was saying before, the rabid lesbian attacked. Fair enough, she lives here. So these mad dogs from Pentridge, and they were both heavy duty bloody criminals. They took the teacher and the kids hostage. I don't know where they kept them, in the back of a ute or a van or something. And demanded ransom money. Now the Victorian government were in a pickle, and they started organising the money for them. And but before they needed to come to that decision whether to pay the ransom, the teacher, who I think was given a medal for her bravery, she managed to wriggle free or something and get the kids to safety. So on the 6th of October 1972, at a one-teacher school in the rural town of Faraday in Victoria, Australia, two plasterers, Edwin John Eastwood and Robert Clyde Boland, kidnapped 6 female pupils and their teacher for a $1 million ransom. The Victorian government claimed it would pay the ransom. The victims escaped and the criminals were captured, tried and convicted. Eastwood escaped and later kidnapped a teacher and 9 pupils. He was again captured, convicted and sentenced. While in prison, Eastwood strangled convicted rapist Glenn Davies in what was ruled self-defence. He was eventually released, having served his sentence. So the incident. So Eastwood and Boland entered the school armed with a sawn-off shotgun at about 3 p.m. and forced a teacher, 19-year-old Mary Gibbs, and her 6 pupils, girls aged between 5 and 10, into a red delivery van, leaving a note at the school threatening to kill all the hostages unless a $1 million cash ransom was paid. They drove off into a remote area in the bush. So that evening, the Premier of Victoria, Dick Hamer, announced that the state government was prepared to pay the ransom. The Victorian Education Minister, Lindsay Thompson, was driven to the scene by Assistant Commissioner Bill Crowley, masquerading as the minister's driver and armed with a trousered Derringer pistol. Future Chief Commissioner Mick Miller was concealed under a blanket in the rear of the car with a high-powered rifle. Thompson waited to personally deliver the ransom, but it was never collected. In the early hours of the next morning, the kidnappers told Gibbs they were going to collect the ransom and left her and the pupils. When they were gone, Gibbs managed to kick the door panel out with her heavy platform-heeled leather boots, and escaped with the children in the dark, finding help a few kilometres away. Eastwood and Boland were captured by heavily armed Victoria police officers after an extensive manhunt. Story of the Faraday school kidnapping. And we had our own little bit of drama thrown in at the end, so that'll do for Faraday. I'm going to get Brian now.